What's up guys, Dinoster 1, 2, and 2, and I got another list video for you today. Today is the best, let's say 15 fusions in the game. Let's go!
15.
Five-headed dragon. Now, okay, this thing isn't the best thing on the list. It's actually number 15. But I did want to put it on here because it is tied with 4 other monsters for the strongest monster in the game in terms of attack and defense. Its self-defense effect, where it can only be killed by light monsters, is kind of dumb because light monsters are probably the most well-equipped to kill this thing because they have honest. But we don't really care about that. You summon this in with Dragon's Mirror. It's a giant beat stick. It helps you OTK. It's okay.
14.
First of Dragons. Now this one's really cool because it's another Dragon's Mirror target and its self-defense is a hell of a lot better. It can only be killed by normal monsters, which let's face it means it probably can't be killed by battle, and it's also unaffected by monster effects, which means you can't just castell it away. It's a good little wall, and at 2700 attack it's pretty decent of a monster as well.
13.
Panzer Dragon. I like this card even though it's not the best fusion on the list. It is a means to an end, so I figured I would mention it. At very worst, Instant Fusion brings this thing out, and it pops a card during the end phase. At very best, it makes you Cyber Dragon Infinity. So, yeah, I think it's a relevant card.
12.
Dinoster Power, the Mighty Dracoslayer. Here's another one of those cool means to an ends cards. You don't need polymerization. It is a contact fusion, and it lets you get a pendulum monster out of your graveyard, which is great because pendulum monsters in your graveyard suck. It's got 2950 defense, which makes it pretty good, but its attack's pretty lousy, and it doesn't actually do anything other than that, so you probably use this and Ignister to go into Hope Harbinger, which is a pretty solid play in and of itself.
11.
Thousand Eyes Restrict, right off the ban list. Fresh. And the cool thing about this card is it's a perfect instant fusion target. It's great one monster removal, and since it dies during the end phase, you don't have to worry about it keeping the rest of your stuff from attacking for very long. Too bad it's not better, but still a great viable option to get rid of a problem monster on the field.
10.
Dark Paladin, one of the older cards on the list, and unlike some other fusion monsters, Dark Gaia, this thing was power creeped in the opposite direction. With the advent of pendulum monsters and pendulum scales, this thing is really powerful, and just discarding one card from your hand to negate any spell means things like pendulums just simply can't play. And with Eye of Timaeus, this thing is extremely easy to summon in Dark Magician decks.
9.
Ritual Beast, ulti-Cannahawk. Now here's a weird one because outside of Ritual Beast, this thing's completely useless. However, in Ritual Beast, it's absolutely imperative. It searches your steeds and your ambush, which are both really way overpowered trap cards, and lets that deck be relevant in any sense. And because you can chain its second effect to its first effect to search, you can defuse to dodge stuff and help you mitigate your resources, and you can kind of loop this thing a couple of times and search all your traps in one turn with the right setup. It's just a really good card, and it's a sad thing it's at 1 because that means a well-played Solemn Warning totally destroys your entire search engine. But hey, still, it's a great card.
8.
Chimeratech Fortress Dragon. Now this one's kinda could move around on the list a little bit because it pretty much depends on what deck you're playing against and what meta is currently floating around. Something with like towers, like with Cleaforts or Magnus, Turbo or something, this thing's really useful because that means you can just summon Cyber Dragon and tribute their guy away, which is a great way of getting rid of these invincible machine boss monsters because tributing is almost completely unstoppable.
7.
Frightfur Tiger. I had to put a Frightfur monster on this list because they are a viable fusion deck, even though they still use polymerization. They're a little old school. It was a little hard to pick which one I wanted to use because they all are actually very good in their own rights, despite the fact the deck isn't tier 1. But Frightfur Tiger is probably the best one because when it hits the field, depending on how many you made this thing with, you can get tons of freaking advantage. So, yeah, Frightfur Tiger.
6.
Doom Virus Dragon. Now, I wish this card could be higher on the list because in a bubble, its effect is probably one of the best on the list. It's original crutch card, but it's not very relevant, no one plays the thing, and it's not the easiest thing to summon because you have to use Fang of Critias, but you know what? It's still a really cool card, and the fact that it just nukes everything your opponent's got and you get to look at their hand for the next like 3 turns, that's really great. Sadly, it can't be higher in the list.
5.
Dante, Pilgrim of the Burning Abyss. Now this one's kind of fun because, you know, it works really well in Burning Abyss. You can discard a Burning Abyss from your hand to draw a card, which lets you get tons of advantage because whatever you discard is going to do something, plus you're going to draw a card. And the cool thing is when Beatrice dies, you just can kind of float into this thing for free, so you don't even have to fusion summon this thing, which all the best fusion monsters on this list aren't fusion summoned by polymerization, so that's automatically really, really good. And this thing is just a pretty powerful monster, and it's untargetable, so that's like awesome. And when it dies, you knock a card out of your opponent's hand. This thing just gives you all this free advantage for essentially just letting your stuff die. It's actually pretty cool.
4,
Shaddoll Construct. Now this one was weird because I wasn't sure if I should include banned cards on the list, but this is the first list that I've made so far that actually this question has even come up, so I figured, you know what, it's the only banned fusion there is currently, now that Thousand Eyes Restrict is off the list, so we'll include it. It's really cool. When it hits the field, you can mill a Shaddoll card out of your deck, which is automatically really good for Shaddolls, and when it dies, hey, you get your Shaddoll fusion card back, which this thing lets you recycle your entire fusion engine, which is kind of the problem with polymerization. So yeah, this thing's great, and then when it battles a monster that was special summoned, it just auto kills it. So this is a really powerful card. And at 2800 attack, it's also just inherently strong. So yeah, good monster.
3,
Gem-Kinight Seraphinite. Now the cool thing about this card is, like, a year ago, people would have told you this thing was shit because Gem-Knights, but some idiot decided that you can just splash Brilliant Fusion in anything you want and summon this thing for essentially free, and you get to mill 2 cards out of your deck, and you get 2 extra normal summons a turn, which is like really solid. And things like Monarchs are using this thing and the red Power Ranger card to make like rank 5s and stuff. Like, this thing's actually really solid, and it's splashable, which is why it's so high on the list.
2,
Masked Hero Darklaw. Now this one could also be argued to be number 1, just like Doom Virus, if it was in a bubble, looking at its effect alone. It's really easy to summon, it's splashable due to Mass Change 2, and it's a one-sided macro Cosmos. That's amazing. At 2400 attack, he's not the strongest thing, but he's still annoying to get over. And when your opponent searches or draws a card outside of their draw phase or the damage step, which is weird, tunes, you get to just like banish a random card out of their hand, which mitigates, you know, some of the advantage they're getting, which makes chaining Mass Change to like Rhoda or something a really powerful move. And the fact that it's splashable, yeah, really, really good card.
1,
Elder Entity Norden. Okay guys, I understand I'm not really breaking the mold here, making him number 1, but he is weird if you think about it. In a bubble, his effect's not very good at all, and he's not exactly the easiest thing to fusion summon because he's made of like 2 other extra deck monsters, so that's actually really weird. And unlike Doom Virus and Darklaw, in a bubble, he seems like he shouldn't even be on the list, much less number 1, but then you remember instant fusion exists. So basically, for the cost of 1,000 life points, you can summon this thing out, and then his effect will activate, which is to summon 1 monster with 4 or lower level from your graveyard to your field, making him essentially an instant rank 4. And rank 4s are the best toolbox in the game, so Norden is instantly really good. Alright guys, let me know down in the comments below what you guys think of the list. There was a couple more monsters on this list I would have liked to put on or move around and things like that. Like Acid would have been cool, but for diversity's sake I left him off. But I'm curious to know what you guys think, so leave it down in the comments below. Like, comment, subscribe, and remember, if you don't show the meta, who will? I'll see you guys next time. What's up guys, Daminator 1, 2, and 2, and today I got another underrated card. Today's underrated card is, woo! Mausoleum of the Emperor. Mausoleum of the Emperor is a field spell card that allows either player to normal summon a monster that would require tributes by paying 1,000 life points instead of having to tribute a monster.